and then the mourners walk through the row, and we say a prayer to the mourners. And that same short prayer we also say in the Shiva house. When we visit, before we leave, we say one line. It's one prayer, one line. You may have seen it. It's right here in text 8a, page 180. In Hebrew, page 180. In Hebrew, it's Hamakom Yenachem Etchem Betoch Shar Avelei Tzion V'Yerushalayim. May God console you among the other mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. What is this meaning of this prayer? What is the meaning? Why do we say, may God console you? Why don't I say, I would like to console you? Or may you be consoled? The first thing we tell the mourner is that ultimately only God can comfort you. We are not in position to really comfort you. There's nothing possible that I can say that can bring comfort. And when people say time heals, for some it does, some it doesn't. So we say only God can heal a person. Such pain, only God can heal. But why do we mention? So that's the first, and that's actually a sensitive thing to say. I cannot comfort you, only God, and I pray that God can comfort you. With God's infinite amazing. As we're going to see in the next lesson how that happens. But what's the next part? Console you among the other mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. Excuse me, we're in Venice, Florida. Right now I'm mourning. I'm in pain over the loss of my spouse. What does it have to do with Harry in Jerusalem?
You're not alone.
Very good. You're not alone. Excellent. Very important. You know that you're not alone. As Jews, we are brothers and sisters. We are one family. So just like you are mourning, really we are mourning along with you. Very good point. In addition, and this is the Rebbe writes this to Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, who lost his son in an accident. It was an accident, and the Rebbe wrote him a beautiful letter. And the letter is actually mentioned here part and part in the other classes. It's a long letter. Personally, this letter helped me a lot when I lost my father when I was 20. So let's read A-B. In regards to Zion, page 181. In regards to Zion, Jerusalem, the Romans, and before them the Babylonians, were given dominion only over the wood and stone, silver and gold of the temple's physical manifestation, but not over its inner spiritual essence, contained within the heart of each and every Jew. Over this the nations have no dominion, and it stands eternally. So too regarding the mourning of the individual, death dominates only the physical body and concerns of the deceased person. The soul, however, is eternal. It has merely ascended to the world of truth. So the mentioning of mourners on Zion, Jerusalem, draws a parallel to the idea that Jerusalem is always in our hearts and Jerusalem is always alive. We always pray towards Jerusalem. We always daven for the rebuilding Jerusalem. The destruction of the temple that we mourn is the physical building that was destroyed, but not the soul of the building. The soul of Hashem, the soul of Torah, that all is very much alive. So that's and again that's now the Kriya, which was text 9 we read already, brings out this point. Now, let's move on to emotional reactions to a loss of a loved one. What sort of painful feelings and emotions come up when somebody loses a loved one? Anybody?
They just can't believe that they're
Disbelieve?
gone.
Disbelieve?
Yes,
Disbelieve?
that they're gone.
Yes. What do you say? Anger?
Yeah.
Huh?
Sorrow.
Sorrow? Guilt. Okay. So these are the top few, right? Anger, injustice, guilt. Let's talk about injustice. I think I brought up this contrast. Contrast a loss of a 108-year-old person, right? A 108-year-old person. We had a member that turned 100 that passed away years ago, at the age 108, right? Okay. You read in the news the loss of a 100-year-old, 90-year-old person, right? Versus of a person who died in their 20s from leukemia. What's your reaction? First one. What's your reaction? Lived a long life. Could be sadness, sad. Anger. Is there anger? No. Even if if close, it's your mother. Are you angry? You said yes. 100. She turned 100. She lived 108. You say there's still anger. Okay. Very few people. No, not anger. Is there a deep grief? Contrast. Yes. Yes. Is there guilt? Is there a lot of guilt? Depends what type of Jewish mother she was. Huh? Exactly. Okay, so we'll talk about this as well. Depends what she did. Now, versus a young person who passed away, a loved one. There's a lot of different emotions: anger, injustice, right? Oh, so what ideas have we learned till now that kind of can mitigate the feeling of anger and injustice?
They still have a soul, and their soul is going to be released from their body.
They still have a soul, and the soul lives on.
The soul lives on.
Okay. Yes.
So, I wanted to throw in another example. When I was a child, my grandfather died, but he was murdered. So it wasn't, he was old to me, he was antique, maybe he was 60s.
Right.
So if it appears that it was an outside influence, there is anger and injustice. But what my Rebbe has taught me in this class is that
Yes.
nobody goes before their time.
Very good. Very good. You're good. Good
But
student.
I'm
You're a good
struggling
student.
now, even now, with that little girl who lost her grandfather last week. He was fine.
Right.
He gave me a silver dollar. Now he's dead.
Right. So that I think we did this in lesson 1. We learned that a person's time is allotted. Right.
But it can change.
A person's time is allotted. Huh?
It can change.
And meaning everybody has a certain amount of time they are supposed to live in this world, to fulfill their unique mission. Correct. So so knowing that, when a person passes away, it helps. Now, when I like to say important, everything that we teach is not an answer to the mystery of life. Okay? Life is very mysterious. The world of souls is extremely mysterious. But the information that the Torah has given us, some of the wisdom Hashem has shared us, can help us to channel how I react to a situation. In other words, I'm not in control what happens to me. Life is out of my control. But I am in control how I react to situations. And knowledge of these teachings and beliefs can help me to react and to, not the word move on, like forget about it, but to channel it in a healthy way. It doesn't mean that it's not painful. You can be in pain. You can be in pain the rest of your life. But the question is, how do you live with your pain? Is it stifling you, or is it making you a stronger, healthier person? So
More
the
compassionate.
Huh?
And more compassionate.
compassionate. So if you understand the idea that a person has a certain mission, and let's look in the next text. Really brings out this idea powerful of a great rabbi, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, one of the greatest sages, and his son died. It's a little long, but it's good. It's good. It's good. Let's read it. 185, text 10. When the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai passed, his student entered to offer condolences. Rabbi Eliezer entered and sat before him. Master, if it please you, I will say one thing, he said. Speak, Rabbi Yochanan responded. Rabbi Eliezer said, Adam had a son who died, and he allowed himself to be consoled. How do we know that he was consoled? For it states, Adam was intimate again with his wife. You too should allow yourself to be consoled. Rabbi Yochanan answered, Not only am I pained because of my loss, now you have caused me to be pained for Adam's too. Next student walks in. This is a shiva conversation going on over here. Rabbi Yeshua entered. If it pleases you, I will say one thing, he said. Speak, Rabbi Yochanan responded. Rabbi Yeshua said, Job had sons and daughters, and they all died in a single day. Yet he allowed himself to be consoled. You too should allow yourself to be consoled. How do we know that he was consoled? For Job said, God has given, God has taken, right? Hashem Natan, Hashem Lokach. May God's name be blessed. Rabbi Yochanan answered, Not only am I pained because of my own loss, now you have caused me to be pained for Job too. Okay. Next, Rabbi Yossi entered and said before him, Master, if it please you, I will say one thing, he said. Speak, Rabbi Yochanan responded. Rabbi Yossi said, Aaron, the Kohen Gadol, the brother of Moshe, had two illustrious sons, and they both died in a single day. Yet he allowed himself to be consoled, for it said Aaron was silent. His silence implied that he was without grievance and accepted consolation. You too should allow yourself to be consoled. Rabbi Yochanan answered, Not only am I pained because of my own loss, now you have caused me to be pained for Aaron too. Rabbi Shimon entered. Okay, let's make this fast. Again, same. They all kind of gave him more and more grief. And what does he say? Master, if it please you, I will say one thing. He said, Speak, Rabbi Yochanan responded. Rabbi Shimon said, King David had a son who died, and he allowed himself to be consoled. You too should allow yourself to be consoled. How do we know that King David was consoled? But state, David comforted Bathsheba, his wife, and he was intimate with her, and she bore a son, and he called his name Solomon, King Solomon, Shlomo. You too, master, should allow yourself to be consoled. Rabbi Yochanan answered, Nope, not only am I pained because of my own loss, now too you have caused me to be pained for King David too. Yeah. Alright, final one, the most important one. Finally, the great Rabbi Eliezer ben Arach. Rabbi Eliezer ben Arach is one of the most amazing sages in Talmud. Just of his deep sense of understanding of human nature, God's wisdom, and how he was able to bridge them together. The whole Talmud, Eliezer ben Arach is one of the most, all his stories are amazing. Anyways, so he was still a student of Rabbi Yochanan. He says, when Rabbi Yochanan saw him, he told his attendant, Take my clothing and be prepared to follow me to the bathhouse. For Rabbi Eliezer is a great person, and I will not be able to hold out in the face of his comforting words. So just walking in, he already knew that what he's going to say is going to comfort him, that he can go wash himself, meaning that was expression that he can be consoled. What did he say? Rabbi Eliezer entered. He sat down before him and said, I would like to share a parable. Your situation can be compared to that of a man to whom the king entrusted an article for safekeeping. Every day the man would cry and shout, Woe is to me! When will I be able to return the deposited item and undamaged, and be relieved of the incredible responsibility I bear? Master, you had a son. He read the Torah, prophets, and holy writings, studied the Mishnah, the laws, and the ethical teachings. He passed from this world without sin. You should be consoled because you returned your deposit in perfect condition. Rabbi Yochanan responded, Rabbi Eliezer, my son, you have comforted me in the most humane fashion. What was so unique about Rabbi Eliezer's response versus all the other ones? It's a good case study. Why? Yes, Leon.
It's like you don't own anything. And
Okay.
What she said.
She explained, basically said that life is a deposit. We don't owe anything. And you, huh?
So are our children, and so is everything.
Okay. But in the other ones, they said what was their premise? All the other ones, what was their premise? Adam also lost a child, and what happened? He got over it, right? So basically, all of them were telling the Rebbe,
Get over it.
get over it, right?
Step out of it.
They huh?
Step out of it.
Yeah, they kind of instructing him how to feel. You can't tell somebody how to feel. I can't tell you to love somebody, right? You have to develop it. You have to make this work. Everybody was just basically giving him that instruction. Versus Rabbi Lazo, who provided a path. He didn't give him a story. He didn't tell him, look, do like this, do like that. He didn't even really give him a much of a esoteric teaching, the soul is alive and all that either. He gave him cleverly a parable, right? A parable that he can think about, that can give him a perspective, how to look at the situation, and allow that person on their own to be comforted. So, as you said, Leona, you said that life is a deposit, right? Now, what is a deposit? The body or the soul? Is that what your question? Which one? Huh? The body? Body is deposit or soul or body? Soul is not a deposit. Okay. What do you say? Both together? Okay. Answer is both are deposits. Different deposit. Right? You have on the bottle says on the plastic bottle in Maine you get 5 cents, right? In New York you get 10 cents. Okay. Different deposits, right?
Yeah, there is another thing which can be good for consolation.
Yes.
For a person is a sense of relief.
A sense of relief.
Yeah, because
Okay. But that works when a person that was in pain, not somebody who was murdered, not the loss of a child, etc. Okay, yes.
No, like my husband was,
It's very absolutely. And we'll get there. But okay, no, yep, they're good. Deposit, I think this is a very important point. Not only we learned last week that the body doesn't belong to us, given to us as a collateral, right? We got to take care of it and return it. Now we're learning that also the soul is a deposit. The soul is pure when it gets born, and it is our obligation to remain pure, to do what Hashem wants, right? The soul is the actual part of Hashem that I have, that's part of who I am, and I have responsibility to return in the next step of the journey as beautiful as I can, which we're going to go into next week about afterlife and punishment, reward, consequences, etc. But this is very important. Life, soul is also a deposit. And when you look back and say, look what type of life I lived. What took a life my loved one lived. I could take comfort that they have utilized their life, their soul, in the most beautiful. They kept the deposit beautiful. The word deposit is very crass, right? But the idea is understood, which is hard when it comes to a child. And I'll say that in again, not in a way that to address a specific case. Again, if somebody loses a child, right, it is the most difficult, most hardest thing. It's the most painful thing to watch. Painful to watch. And probably everybody has a personal story or knows about somebody, right? You got to just cry with them. Don't come with these lessons. For yourself, you can try to understand that we believe that every soul comes to this world for a unique mission. And for when a child passes away, how should I say that? let's take the Holocaust for 1 minute, and but without getting into the Holocaust. 6 million Jews died. 6 million Jews. Plus, they say it's a lot more. 1.5 million children, right? Every Jew that died, simply because they were a Jew, their neshama is the purest, holiest soul in Torah. These are holy souls. We don't understand why it happened. It's the most horrible thing that ever happened to our people. We cry and we don't accept anything, any explanation. However, how do I look at the child? I'm named after my great uncle, who was killed as an 11-year-old child in the ghetto. I'm named after my grandmother's brother. So he had a certain beautiful mission that he was in this world for 11 years, or for a day, or for a month. That was the mission. And that's something that we look not as he missed out in his life, but this was his purpose, his or her purpose. Which makes the idea of a child or somebody who dies young, we can again teach this idea that they were more pure because they accomplished in their lifetime what takes us 80, 90 years to accomplish. Again, I'm saying that more of an abstract teaching, not as giving an answer to situations. Clear?
Yeah, but it gives us a great idea of reincarnation.
We'll get there. We'll get to reincarnation. Let's talk about guilt. Let's about the best Jewish topic called guilt. How much guilt did your mother give you?
This should call oy vey.
Oy vey. All right. What ideas? But based on, what is guilt? What? Somebody called me yesterday and said, "Rabbi, I'm coming to give you guilt." So I said, I said, how many pounds of guilt are you bringing? He says $180. He says, I'm bringing you guilt because it's my mother's yard site and I have guilt that I have to give money for her neshama. So I'm giving you guilt for guilt, or guilt for guilt.
That's good.
Anyways, it works. Thank you, mother.
So what is guilt?
What is guilt? Let me ask you a question. Based on what we learned, how can we mitigate guilt feelings after a loved one that has passed away? What are the guilt feelings typically you find? Yes.
That you didn't do enough
You didn't do enough.
to save him or
Okay.
whatever.
Okay.
Take
Fair enough.
care of-
Take care. It's short. What else? She said guilt didn't take care enough of the person.
You start to think what's wrong you did.
What's wrong you did? You didn't close. You didn't close. There was no closing.
Yes, even
All right.
you were very good, but still you always find
Okay. Yes. These are real stuff. Missed opportunities.